Hello, welcome to Thursday's ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines here in the southeast. The boss of P&O Ferries admits breaking the law over the sacking of 800 workers and tells MPs he would do it again.
I would make this decision again, I'm afraid.
Get it down!
The moment police with tasers move in and arrest the man accused of murdering Sir David Amess. The latest from court.
From Ukraine to Budapest to Broadstairs, the refugees starting a new life in Kent and hoping one day to return home.
And the magnificent birds nesting in a castle in Sussex, who now have their own Stork show. Good evening. MPs gave the boss of P&O Ferries a hard time today over the sacking of 800 staff, asking him, are you in this mess because you don't know what you're doing or because you're a shameless criminal?
And the questions didn't get any easier as Peter Hebblethwaite was grilled over the axing of workers, many of them based in Dover. In fact, he admitted the company had broken employment law.
Well, Kit Bradshaw watched the Select Committee session and is in Westminster for us this evening. I mean, I guess, Kit, it was expected that he was going to get some grilling, and he did.
Yes, MPs certainly didn't pull their punches. I mean, disgraceful, appalling and a shambles were some of the ways they summed up how they feel about P&O Ferries' treatment of their workers over the past week. It was a joint evidence session by the Business and Transport Committees, and they heard from a number of expert witnesses, but they reserved their toughest questioning for one man, Peter Hebblethwaite, P&O's chief executive. Now, he started with an apology, but very quickly made quite a significant admission in response to this question.
Did P&O have a duty to consult the unions in good time over the redundancies pursuant to Section 188 of the Trade Union Act of 1992?
There's absolutely no doubt that we were required to consult with the unions. We chose not to do that because we believe...
You chose to break the law?
Because we chose not to consult, and we will will compensate everybody in full for that.
So an admission to breaking employment laws for failing to properly consult the unions. Now, he says that they needed to move to what he calls a new business model, and that model will cost half as much as the previous staffing model because the agency workers replacing P&O staff will be paid on average £5.50 an hour. That's below the UK minimum wage. But what about the chief executive's pay packet?
My salary is a basic salary of £325,000.
Do you have access to a performance-related bonus?
I have access to two performance-related bonus, a short-term incentive plan and a long-term incentive plan.
And so if your employers are, might I suggest, mad enough to offer you a performance-related bonus, will you accept it or reject it?
That is, I can't tell you how far that is from my thoughts.
As a point of principle, will you accept it or reject it?
I don't know the answer to that.
Given all the damage to P&O's brand over the past week, one Sussex MP, Nuz Ghani, who represents Wealdon, had this question for the boss.
Did you change anything, knowing what you know now, what you did last Thursday?
That's a really, really difficult question. The business would close. The business was not viable. This is the only way for us to save this business, and we have moved to a model that is internationally recognised and widely used across the globe and by our competitors. I would make this decision again, I'm afraid.
So seemingly no regrets. Now, another MP who was at that hearing is the chairman of the Transport Select Committee, Hugh Merriman, the MP for Bexhill and Battle. He joins me now. As part of that session, you said that P&O had opted out of the law of this country and they are laughing at us. What do you think of how their management has handled all this?
Well, it's been a complete own goal in terms of PR for them, but it's absolutely extraordinary for a company to come before the committee that I chair and say that they knew they were breaking the law, consciously decided to, and they'd do it again, no regrets. And what that's shown us is that we've got to change the law in Parliament to stop companies like this operating in this manner. I'm confident that we'll be doing that next week. And also they will not get away with paying wages as low as they've said, because we're looking to bring at least the minimum wage in. So we will take action now.
And the Transport Secretary has said he'll bring a package of measures to Parliament next week. What do you think needs to be done?
Well, we now need to ensure that if companies do decide to just completely ignore consultation requirements, then the government can come and step in and actually get an interim injunction and stop it occurring. And I also want to see some of the flags brought back from Cyprus and the Bahamas from these boats, and actually here in the UK where we can properly regulate them on a safety basis as well. More measures for the safety regulator on vessels, more measures also for the insolvency service just to stop this happening, so more teeth for us.
OK, Hugh Merriman, thank you very much for joining us. And the chief executive of P&O sat at that committee hearing wearing a pin badge with the flag of the company, which has over 180 years of history, a reputation that some would say is in tatters this evening.
OK, Kit Bradshaw in Westminster, thank you very much indeed.
While watching that Westminster Select Committee session from Dover were some of the seafarers fired by P&O Ferries, and officers from their trade union, the RMT. Tony Green was with them.
Are you in this mess because you don't know what you're doing, or are you just a shameless criminal?
If the P&O chief thought members of the Transport Committee were a hostile audience, he should be thankful he wasn't in front of members of the RMT, who gathered in Dover to hear what he had to say to MPs. Peter Hebblethwaite's evidence and his apology was met with astonishment and anger.
Actually, an apology
to the seafarers that were affected on Thursday last week.
An apology to their families, and an apology to the 2,200 of our employees who have had to face very difficult questions.
Today was his turn to face difficult questions, including the salaries of the new crew replacing sacked seafarers.
Could you sustain your lifestyle on £5.50p an hour? No, you
can't answer, can you?
No.
I've just received this morning a photograph of the personal effects of crew that were sacked in bin bags on the deck of the Pride of Kent by skips ready to be thrown in the bin, just like the seafarers who've lost their jobs. And I'm sorry, but that's the most disgraceful thing.
They've just treated us like complete and utter dirt.
He's quite comfortable about admitting that he's broken the law.
Blasé, I think the words were. To sit there in front of Transport Select Committee and openly admit that you've broke the law is unheard of.
What's the best you can hope for now for you and your members?
We are not going to stop fighting. I think the company itself is finished, and how long he lasts is just a matter of time now.
Earlier in the hearing, P&O's move had been described as fire and rehire on steroids. But these workers believe this brutal move made to keep the company afloat has cost its reputation. Tony Green, ITV News, Dover.
In other news tonight, jurors have been shown video of the moment police arrested the man accused of murdering the Southend West MP, Sir David Amess.
The Old Bailey also heard that Ali Harbi Ali told officers he'd committed a terror crime as he was booked into custody. Russell Hookey has been listening to today's evidence.
They say he's got a knife and he's just stabbed
He's got a knife, but he's allowing you to go in and see.
This was the moment Essex police officers came face to face with the man accused of murdering Southend West MP Sir David Amess.
Mate, drop the knife! Drop the knife now! Mate, drop that knife! Drop that knife!
That footage was captured on body cam worn by PC Ryan Curtis, an Essex police officer who was sitting in his car with colleague PC Scott James when a call came over the radio. He told the court that neither of them were wearing stab vests at the time and were armed only with batons and incapacitant CS spray, yet they took the decision to race here to the church hall, knowing they could be putting their own lives at risk.
Get it down!
The images shown to a jury at the Old Bailey today provide the first insight into the moments after Sir David was stabbed during a constituency surgery in October last year. The court was also shown footage taken at the police custody desk as 26-year-old Ali Harbi Ali was charged.
Domestic or hate-related in any
Terror.
way? Pardon?
Terror. I'd say hate, yeah.
That was followed by evidence from the forensic pathologist who performed the post-mortem on Sir David Amess. He revealed the MP's clothing was covered in blood and had extensive damage consistent with a stabbing. In all, Sir David was stabbed 23 times in the shoulders, the back, the face and chest. Crucially, one of those wounds pierced his right lung, causing it to collapse, which then led to cardiac arrest. The pathologist said he died from multiple stab wounds. Ali Harbi Ali denies murder and preparing acts of terrorism, and the case continues at the Old Bailey. Russell Hookey, ITV News, Leigh-on-Sea in Essex.
More news, and a person's been taken to hospital after a fire at a flat in Broadstairs. Police cordoned off the high street while fire crews dealt with the incident. The casualty was taken to hospital. The cause of the fire is not yet known, but the high street has now reopened.
An electric scooter trial in Canterbury, which was due to end this month, has been extended until November. That's despite the Police and Crime Commissioner, Matthew Scott, calling for them to be banned altogether due to fears about their safety. Kent County Council is hosting the trial.
Positive talks have taken place today to try and bring to an end Worthing's bin strike. Councillors have asked unions to pause the action while talks are ongoing. Members of the GMB union first walked out 11 days ago in the dispute over pay. 3 community digs are to take place at Dover's historic Maison Dieu. Amateur archaeologists are invited to take part, with the first one next month. The aim is to discover more about its colourful past, including being used as a medieval pilgrim hospital and a Victorian prison. Now you're watching ITV News in the Meridian region. Still to come on the programme. Justice delayed, justice denied. The legal logjam in the region's law courts. We have a special report.
It's been another glorious day out there today. Blue skies as far as the eye could see, but will it last into the weekend? Join me later for all the details.
And you can find more on all of today's stories, of course, on our website. itv.com/Meridian is the address. You can contact us, details on the screen, and you can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter.
Now, a couple who escaped Ukraine after Russian shells hit their city have made it to Kent, where they hope to start a new life.
Languages teacher Ian Millam was originally from Broadstairs but had worked in Ukraine for over 20 years and met his Ukrainian wife there. The couple joined thousands of other refugees on the long and dangerous road out of the country after a missile strike rocked their apartment block. John Ryle reports.
In the first days of the invasion of Ukraine, after shelling shook their tower block home, Ian Millam and his wife Helen took the tough decision to join thousands of refugees on the road to Poland, Romania and Hungary.
You could feel the shockwave, and this was a moment, it was like we're under attack.
3 weeks after we spoke to them in Budapest, they're staying with Ian's father in Broadstairs, and it looks like they've succeeded in getting Helen the visa she needs to live and work in Kent for at least 3 years.
We kind of chased the system, and then we finally got through to visa and immigration, and they run us through the process. Hopefully, everything being fine, we should pick up the biometric residency permit this afternoon.
I think that I'm lucky because I got out early enough not to be bombarded completely. I have place where to live. I have hope to again get a job and go on with my life. Of course, at the moment it's a bit unclear. Yeah, I think lots of people are going through this state, when you kind of don't know where your home is anymore. And but it's it's our responsibility to keep pushing and to build the life you want. So yeah. A little bit unstable, but hopefully everything will be fine. Yeah.
Their days here start with checks on the friends and neighbours they left behind.
Every morning you wake up and check, is everything okay? Is everyone alive? Our neighbours, luckily, are still okay.
From Broadstairs, they're using their language skills and their knowledge of Ukraine to help with the logistics of supplying food, clothing and medical supplies.
One of my ex-students who's actually in Warsaw in Poland, and he's managed to send some kit. He has drivers that will get in even to Kharkiv, and we're kind of coordinating on where to find kit, ship and get it to them.
They pray the courage of the Ukrainian people will make this Putin's downfall, but they fear the impact of a long war of attrition.
I really hope he won't organise. I hope they'll remain as disorganised as they are, and I hope that NATO or some of the European countries will step up military equipment and aid, if not helping on the ground, and we'll be able to counter and at least push them back to the point where he'll want to negotiate to save face.
This is home now, and they're certain the flight to safety was the right move. But their dearest hope is that one day it'll be possible to return to the life that has been stolen from them and from so many others. John Ryle, ITV News, Broadstairs.
Next tonight, if you've been a victim of crime, it could take up to 5 years before your case comes to court because of a huge backlog caused by the pandemic.
Well, for the victims, it's making a tough situation even tougher. But many experts say COVID has only exacerbated a problem that was there already. Nick Smith has more.
There is a saying in legal circles that justice delayed is justice denied, and the list of those waiting for their day in court is now longer than at any point in living memory. Deborah Hatton from Walderslade is Honorary Secretary of the Kent Law Society, and she says it's causing real hardship for all of those wrapped up in applying the law.
For the criminal law system, people are often waiting many months, if not years sometimes now, for their hearings. And whilst people might not think they're going to be sympathetic if that's a criminal person, although not yet, of course, convicted, that has a huge impact on victims of crime. They're waiting for years before their cases are resolved. Or witnesses, how are they going to feel when they're giving evidence a long, long time after the event may have taken place?
There was already a legal backlog even before the onset of COVID, with pending Crown Court cases rising by 23% in the year leading up to the pandemic and then a further 47% during it. There are now a total of more than 60,000 cases waiting to be processed. Some may take several years before they reach trial stage, and there's real concern an already stretched legal profession will struggle to meet this increasing demand. So the National Audit Office predicts that the backlog will be a widespread issue in Crown Courts well beyond 2024.
COVID absolutely has added to the backlog, but it is not the cause of the backlog. The backlog existed for years, and that is primarily through underinvestment and cuts that we have seen in the criminal justice system by successive governments. The fee rate is putting criminal practitioners off. They have seen no significant increase in 25 years. What we are seeing is members choosing to go and work in different areas of the law where there are better working conditions, better rates of pay.
And a Law Society study reveals the extent of an exodus in legal counsel from local courts and custody suites, showing that in areas covering North Kent like Swale, there are often fewer than 6 duty solicitors available to be on call. Meanwhile, for victims of crime, delays in cases being heard means many have to live with the anxiety and uncertainty for years, with some even giving up on justice altogether.
Waiting for that extended period of time to provide their evidence, to see what the kind of culmination of the case will be, makes people feel as if they're not being validated, they're not being supported. Also, there's a potential negative effect on the wider criminal justice system. They might not want to give evidence the longer they have to wait. They might want to be done with the entire experience so they can move on with their lives.
Well, the Ministry of Justice says it has allocated £250 million to what it calls Speed Up Justice, keeping emergency temporary Nightingale courts open to clear the backlog. And that it is set to get through 20% more cases in the next year compared to the 12 months before the pandemic began. But while the British legal system stands on traditions stretching back a millennia, many wrapped up in it are left wondering if it still is truly a pillar of democracy or limping along under increased demands and shrinking resources. Nick Smith, ITV News.
Now, the ITV Evening News is, of course, coming up very shortly with the details about their programme tonight. Here's Mary Nightingale.
P&O Ferries admit they broke the law over a decision to sack 800 workers without notice. The company's chief executive today refused to say whether he'd take 2 bonuses on top of a £300,000 salary. A month on from the start of the war in Ukraine, world leaders gather for a crucial NATO summit. Here, a court shown footage of the moment Sir David Amess's alleged killer was tackled to the ground.
I want to express my profound sorrow. Slavery was abhorrent.
Sorrowful, but not sorry. An apology of sorts from Prince William in Jamaica. Do join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
Thank you, Mary. We will. And also tonight, this time at 8:30, more on the cost of living that's risen to its highest rate in over 30 years. Millions of families are about to be hit by huge hikes in energy, fuel and food bills.
Well, ITV's Tonight programme later investigates the impact on our household finances and looks at how we can all save money.
You really want to concentrate on getting those costs down. Definitely. Slow cooker's the way to do it. It doesn't get more economical.
Okay.
So what I'm going to show you how to make today is a really simple curry. This recipe is really cost effective. You're going to be able to cook enough for 10 portions here.
Perfect. Yeah. That sounds amazing.
Normally you'd probably have rice or something with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Then it means that you're going to be switching on the hob, getting some water, bringing it to the boil, boiling the rice. And this way it all happens in the same pot.
I know that from me using it over the last week, I haven't needed to top up, whereas usually I would have had to top up maybe 2 or 3 days ago, but I've still got a few pounds left.
Good advice there, and you can see more from the cost of living, what you need to know, tonight on ITV at 8:30.
That was an extraordinary moment when white storks began nesting in Sussex again after an absence in England of over 6 centuries.
Well, that was 2 years ago, and since then the giant birds have gone from strength to strength on the Knepp estate near Horsham.
And this spring there's a special treat for twitchers, the chance to monitor the storks on webcam. Here's Malcolm Shaw.
In medieval times, this extraordinary courtship display would have been a familiar sight across southern England. The bill-clattering ritual of a pair of white storks as they prepare to raise this year's young. The huge birds have built a nest on a chimney stack at Knepp Castle, and their comings and goings are being monitored by a nearby webcam.
It looks very random how they're putting the sticks in, or how they're actually, but somehow they build these huge, gigantic nests, and then when they start coming in with their beaks filled with moss that they're carefully pulling up, dead grass from the lawn here, and then lining the nest, you can see every stage of what they're doing, which is, it's fascinating.
The Knepp estate near Horsham is famous for pioneering the concept of rewilding, allowing nature to reclaim what was once a conventional farm. It's one of a network of landowners involved in the White Stork project. Injured and orphaned birds in Poland are rehabilitated at Warsaw Zoo, then brought here. The aim is to create a population of at least 50 breeding pairs.
So one of the main drivers for the White Stork project was to really get people engaging with big nature. We know that white storks elsewhere in Europe and further afield live amongst people in villages and towns, and they're a real sign of hope, and people love having them on their houses. They look forward to them coming back and nesting every year. We want people of Sussex and further beyond to start feeling that about nature, to have it on our doorsteps, to be engaging with it.
There are now 7 pairs of storks breeding across the estate, most at the top of tall trees. Their vast nests get bigger each year and can end up weighing around a tonne each. Thanks to the webcam on the castle, everyone can watch this particular pair up close and personal. Malcolm Shaw, ITV News, Knepp.
Wow, they're incredible, aren't they? They must know that camera's there, because that's quite a performance, isn't it?
Yeah, you say that, although I've been watching that webcam live throughout most of the afternoon, and there was a lot of empty nest action going on.
I'm a bit worried about that neck movement. They're going to have neck ache after
me
that.
Watching the thing. Yeah. Right, Pippa's here. Let's talk about the weather and another fantastically beautiful warm day.
It has been lovely, hasn't it? I mean, we shouldn't get too excited about particularly high temperatures at this time of year, but it's been a lovely boost, hasn't it, after what felt like a very long winter. It really does. Let's have a look at some of the temperatures this week. They started on Monday, peaking at 17.4 in the southeast, finally peaked yesterday at 20.8 Celsius in parts of southern and southeast England, and even today we've not done too badly, just over 19 here in the Meridian region. They are going to decline a little bit as we head into next week though.
It is wonderful to have some sunshine finally, but it is causing a few problems, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we've got lots of dry and settled weather, but a few caveats. We've got tree pollen rearing its head, and with the calm conditions, levels are currently moderate.
I can agree with you. The pollen
is suffering a little bit. It is
today.
very much so.
Yeah.
And UV levels also moderate. People can get easily fooled. I have at this time of year. The sun has got some strength to it at the moment.
Yeah.
But also, I just want to show you an air quality chart. Now, this shows the ideas of how pollen's looking across the UK. You can see high or very high levels in the southeast at the moment, indicated by the red and purple colours. Through tomorrow, those reds become more widespread. So it's definitely something just to bear in mind if you are spending any length of time outside, particularly if you're exercising. But thankfully declining a little again as we head into the weekend.
Okay.
So it's not all good news, but it is some good news.
It's not all good news, but you know, at this time of year, what can we do?
I tell you, we'll take any sunshine.
Yeah.
Is it going to last into the weekend? Let's find out how warm it's going to be with the full forecast. Here's Pip.
Feels like home, whatever the weather. Valent Boilers and Heat Pumps sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
Well, that's another glorious day under our belts and plenty more sunshine in the forecast over the coming days as well. Rather warm in the sunshine, but still some overnight mist, fog and frost to contend with. And that will be the case overnight tonight. So staying dry, but under clear skies, temperatures falling away pretty quickly, easily down to 2 or 3 Celsius. A touch lower in some spots, low enough to give rise to that patchy ground frost and some fog patches as well. More especially out across the east of Kent, where 1 or 2 of those patches could be a little dense in places. But they won't trouble us for long. The March sunshine soon getting to work on all of that tomorrow morning. A glorious start then, plenty of sunshine and perhaps just a little patchy cloud bubbling up into the afternoon. Temperature-wise, warm again inland, 17-18 Celsius the high, always fresher at the coast with some onshore breezes here. And speaking of the coast, these are your high tide times for tomorrow. Sheerness there, 1 minute past 5 in the morning, 5:35 in the afternoon. Looking ahead, it stays dry and fine into the weekend, still pretty warm with it too for a time, but thickening cloud as we start the new week, murky around the coast, and those temperatures taking a slow dip as well. Bye-bye.
Valent sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
And that is all from us for the moment. The ITV Evening News is next, and that's with Mary Nightingale.
I was just thinking who's doing the late bulletin, then I realised it's me. Yeah. So I'll be back with the late news just after 10:30, and I'm very much looking forward to it. For now, though, thank you very much for watching. Plenty more, of course, on the website. We are back at the usual time tomorrow. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Good night.